Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open, the floor, as they would say, is yours. What do you guys want to talk about tonight? That is what we are here to do. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here. And on Open Mic, it's pretty simple here. I usually start off with a simple topic that I want to discuss for a few minutes, and then we spend the rest of the evening doing the important things, which is taking your live topics, questions, comments, whatever it is you guys have. Now, the way you send in a topic or a question on Open Mic is not by using our tip link, which is what you normally use for the John Campea show, but rather by using the super chat feature there in the live chat of the channel, and that's how you send in a question for the show. So good to have you guys here joining me tonight. By the way, I do open mics all by myself. It's just me, so I don't have any technical support. So please do let me know if the sound is okay, if the picture's okay. Just let me know that you guys were able to see and hear me okay, no problem. That, of course, is the main issue here. So good to have you guys here. Now, this is what I want to talk about today before we get started on the important stuff, which is, of course, your questions. So this morning, I'm going through all the show notes, and I thought our lead topic today was going to be the question about Mahershala Ali and whether or not he is still indeed our Blade. Because not only has it been 6 years, yes, you heard that right, 6 years, since they announced Mahershala Ali as Blade. They announced him when he was 45 years old. He is now 51 years old. And the last time I checked, he isn't getting younger. Not that he's too old to do so. I'm just, starting off a brand new character and starting off a potentially brand new franchise. 51 is not too old to play a great role, but it might be too old to start a new franchise. Anyway, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, whatever. But then, of course, yesterday, the trailer for Marvel Zombies dropped, and Blade's in it. And despite the fact that there's this huge laundry list of the actual MCU actors doing the voices of their characters in What If and in Marvel Zombies, no Mahershala Ali. Somebody else is doing the voice of Blade, which, kind of brought up the topic about whether or not, Mahershala Ali was still going to be around to play Blade. That was going to be our main topic. And then about 45 minutes before showtime, James Gunn drops a bomb on everybody, announcing the next movie in the Superman saga, Man of Tomorrow. Not only did he announce a title, but he also gave us a release date, which is July 2027. For those of you keeping count, that is less than 2 years from now. Less than 2 years. It's almost 22 months exactly. In a couple of days, it'll be 22 months exactly until that movie comes out. Now, that's awesome and everything all by itself. And we talked about all the reasons that I thought it was great. The fact that unlike a lot of other franchises, we don't have to wait 3 or 4 years for the next installment. That's all great. But I thought tonight we would take a minute to look at the lineup of superhero films now coming to us in 2027. And it's not just a list of superhero films. Here, I'll take my camera down for a second. Not just a list of superhero films coming in 2027. It's 4 high-profile, tentpole, major comic book superhero films all coming within about 6 months. Roughly within about 6 months of each other. A little bit more. And those films are Spatman. Yes, that's the movie Spatman is coming, everybody. There, I just broke the news. Spatman is coming. Anyway, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming out in June of 2027, to be followed by Spatman, to be followed now by the Superman saga movie, Man of Tomorrow, in July, 1 month later, July of 2027, to be followed just 2 months later, or 3 months later, by The Batman Part 2, which we've been waiting years for, in October of 2027, to be followed just a couple of months later by Avengers Secret Wars in December of 2027. And by the way, none of this is even taking into consideration or counting the idea that Marvel has another reserved date in 2027. Does not automatically mean they're going to announce a movie on it, but it might. So we could be getting a fifth high-profile film. It would have to be high-profile because it would be coming out between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So again, we won't deal in things here that we don't know yet. All we know is that Marvel has a reserved date that they don't have an announced project on that might become a movie. It might not become a movie. So for now, we'll just deal with what we know. Okay. And what we know is beyond this, between June and December of 2027, we've got Beyond the Spider-Verse, the Superman saga, Man of Tomorrow, the Batman Part 2, finally coming from Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson. And then, of course, ending off the multiverse saga, Avengers Secret Wars. All right. I thought it would be fun tonight to just take a couple of minutes and ask two questions. All right. Two questions. Question number one, what is going to be the biggest movie of that bunch? I think that's probably going to be the easier of the two questions. We'll get to that in a second. So first question is, what's going to be the biggest film out of that slew of films coming in 2027? The second question that we got to ask is, what do we think is going to be the best film out of that list? Because I think those are going to be two different answers. What's going to be the biggest and what's going to be the best? Let's get to the slightly easier question. And I say slightly easier because I think it's obvious what the biggest film is going to be. The biggest film is going to be Secret Wars. Look, stranger things have happened in the universe. Something wildly unforeseen could happen. I don't know. But I mean, all other things being equal, Avengers Secret Wars is going to be the biggest film of it. Now that leaves a much more interesting question is what's going to be second, third, and fourth? Because as I bring up, let me look this up. I should have looked this up earlier, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made nearly $700 million. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse made nearly $700 million. Now, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse made about $400 million. Guys, that's like a 40 to 45% increase from film 1 to film 2. Could it have that amount of an increase between number 2 and number 3? If so, we're talking about a Spider-Man, an animated Spider-Man movie that might flirt with the $1 billion mark. Think about it. Like the first one made about 390. The second one made 690. That's a massive jump. If it could replicate that kind of a jump from Across the Spider-Verse to Beyond the Spider-Verse, we could be looking at a movie that is flirting with $1 billion. I don't think it's going to jump that much, but it's going to be big. The Batman Part 1 made over $700 million, right? As long as I'm not mistaken about that. Let me just double check it. The Batman, I believe it made over $700 million. Robert Pattinson's The Batman did indeed make $772 million, so close to 800. Is it not conceivable the way that movie was received, how well and strong the critical response was, how big and strong the audience response was? Is it inconceivable that that movie could add another $200 million and maybe also flirt with the $1 billion mark? And then we've got Man of Tomorrow. This Superman movie, and I know I say it all the time, but it's so vital and important to talk about, to keep this context in mind. The first Superman movie that just came out, that had so many disadvantages, working so many things stacked against it, as compared to my favorite Superman movie of all time, Man of Steel. There's Henry in the corner, watching over, standing vigil, if you will, over the studio and over the office. But David Corenswet's Superman movie faced a mountain of disadvantages that my boy Henry's Man of Steel simply did not have to face, right? This Superman movie is coming hot out of the ashes of the piling, steaming pile of failure that was the DCEU. The DCEU that ended where its last 4 films, a couple of them barely cracked $200 million. Wrap your head around that. Out of the last 4 films they put out, a couple of them just barely managed to crack 200 million. I think maybe one of them didn't even manage to crack 200 million, if I remember correctly. But Blue Beetle, which by the way wasn't a bad little movie, totally flopped. Shazam 2, which by the way was not a bad little movie, totally flopped. Flash, which I thought was a great movie, totally flopped. And on and on and on. I mean, that's just the way to, even a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie could not crack $400 million, made about $390 million. The audience had completely, thoroughly abandoned the DC brand. They had completely abandoned it. Anything with their comic booky shared cinematic universes. Sure, they did a prestige Joker film. That movie made $1 billion, sure, but it wasn't part of some comic book shared cinematic universe or anything like that. Robert Pattinson's The Batman came out. Clearly not a comic booky shared cinematic universe film, but it's Batman. It did great. $790 million. But this was like the 14th Superman that we've had in the past 6 minutes, right? I mean, that's hyperbole, obviously, but we've had a lot of people play. We've had a lot of iterations of Superman. And coming off the big hot failure that was the DCU. Not only that, but when my boy Henry's Superman movie came out, according to Variety, 40% more people were going to the movies than there are today. Since the pandemic, it's really closer somewhere to like 38%, but just rounding up. You got roughly 40% less people go to the movies today, right now. It's starting to turn around a little bit, but as of right now, like 40% less people going to the movies today than when my boy Henry's Superman movie came out. So it had that significantly going for it. Streaming was not as prevalent. I don't think when my boy Henry's movie came out, I don't think Disney Plus existed. Anyway, the long and the short of it is this. That is all those reasons and more is why I said when the new Superman movie was coming, that number one, I was very excited for it and I had all the belief in the world in it and that James Gunn was going to kill it, but don't expect a lot out of it from the box office because it just has to win the audience back. It has a smaller audience to deal with, a smaller general movie-going audience to deal with than my boy Henry did. And it's got to overcome and dig itself out of the ashes of the DCU, something my boy Henry did not have to do. If anything, my boy Henry was coming off the big, massive strength that was Christopher Nolan's films. So when we go back and look at this list, Beyond the Spider-Verse, it's a film that's coming as a third film in a movie franchise that went from 390 million to 690 million. So this one could flirt with $1 billion. The Batman is coming off of a movie that made 790 million and was well received and well liked. So it can very well flirt with $1 billion. And by the time Man of Tomorrow comes out, if Supergirl's good, these are a lot of ifs. I admit it's a lot of ifs, but if Peacemaker keeps being awesome, if Supergirl lands it, if Clayface, is it really unrealistic to think Man of Tomorrow could it not take a fairly good jump and maybe also flirt with $1 billion? So obviously the biggest film out of this bunch is going to be Secret Wars, 100%. But what's going to be the second biggest? That's where it gets more tough. That's where it gets more tough. I'm going to say this. I believe in the number one position as far as biggest film out of these movies go, it's going to be Avengers Secret Wars. I'm going to say number 2 is going to be Beyond the Spider-Verse. Because, I mean, let's just say, I think it's coming, it's part 3, and part 1 and part 2 have been the single best Spider-Man movies ever made. All due respect to my man, Sam Raimi, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse are the 2 best Spider-Man movies ever made. And so I think that Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be the number 2. And I think the Batman Part 2 is going to be number 3. And I think Man of Tomorrow is going to be number 4. Again, I think 2, 3, and 4 are all potentially going to be very, very, very close to each other. Very close to each other. Extremely close to each other. So I will, say number 1, Avengers Secret Wars, number 2, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, number 3, The Batman Part 2, and coming in 4th by just a little bit. And I think, again, the amount of money that's going to separate number 2 and number 4, I think are going to be very small, but coming in number 4th is going to be Man of Tomorrow. And all 3 of those films can flirt with $1 billion. All right. So that's how I see it kind of shaking out. By the way, Derek Large is saying, sorry, not Derek. Who was it that said? It was AFI or a film goer is saying that's debatable, John Campea. Well, of course it's debatable. No matter what order I put these in, it's debatable. That's the whole point of the discussion. It's debatable. All right. Den M is saying overestimating the box office of Spider-Verse. How am I overestimating? These are actual numerical facts. The first one did make $390 million. The second one took an unspeakably huge jump to $690 million. That's the pattern. That's the trajectory. There's no overestimating that. That's an actual factual statistic. So that's the trajectory it's on. So we'll see what it does with the third one. But now let's get around to the other question, which is the more difficult question. And it's a question that is going to be purely speculation because we just don't know for a fact. There are certain things we can draw on to make some guesses. But the second and more interesting question to me, what's going to be the best film out of that bunch? What's going to be the best film out of Beyond the Spider-Verse, the Superman Saga, Man of Tomorrow, the Batman Part 2, and Avengers Secret Wars? This is also a tough question because I want us to look at a couple of things. Number 1, James Gunn has never made a bad movie in my estimation, and he just completely knocked it out of the park with Superman. The Spider-Verse films, simply the 2 best Spider-Man movies ever made. Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson killed it with their take on Batman. And when Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers worked together, I don't know, only 4 of the best comic book films ever made in history. Every single time Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers have worked together on a film, they've done it 4 times. And the results of those 4 times are Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. One of the greatest comic book movies of all time, one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, and one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. So when I look at this list, this is a killer's row. This is an absolute killer's row. So which one is going to be the biggest? That one was easier. Avengers Secret Wars, obviously that's going to be the biggest. Okay, so that's fine. Unless something completely shocking happens, that's the one that's going to be the biggest. But which one's going to be the best? All right, I am ready to give you the truth. It's just my opinion, but I'm going to call it the truth. This gospel. Take it to the bank, my brothers and sisters in film fandom. Here it is. The best movie, and first of all, let me just say, all of these are going to be, I think all of them are going to be great. Of course, they could all suck, but I believe all of them are going to be great. It is nearly impossible not to say the best one out of this bunch is anything other than Beyond the Spider-Verse. Beyond the Spider-Verse will be the best movie out of this group. Again, the first two movies are the two best Spider-Man movies ever made. So I think Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be the best film out of this bunch. And guys, these are all going to be razor sharp close. Razor close. And all of them. Again, I think all these movies are going to be great. They're all going to be great. But I'm going to give the nod here. I'm going to give the edge. Who would have thought, guys, think about this. Who would have thought when we're talking about the best comic book movie of the year, we ain't going to be talking about a Marvel film and we ain't going to be talking about a DC film. We're going to be talking about Sony, ladies and gentlemen. Sony is going to put out the best comic book movie in 2027. At least that's my guess. Sony. Let that get caught in your throat for a minute. Sony. Sony's going to put out the best one. Anyway. All right. So then let's get into what's going to be number 2. Oh my God. Oh my God. Man of Tomorrow, the Batman Part 2 and Avengers Secret Wars with Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers working together. Oh my God. All right. Here it is. I'm going to be decisive. I'm a man of action. I'm going to call one out. I ain't going to say 2, 3, and 4 are tied. I'm going to call them out. Here we are. If Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be the best comic book movie of 2027, I think the second best comic book movie of 2027 is going to be Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2. Again, just that first one killed it so hard. Killed it so hard. It was just so freaking good. It was such a visceral, gritty take on the Batman. It surprised us in many ways. I mean, listen, I never would have in a million years saying, who do you think should be the villain of the next big Batman movie? I never would say the Riddler. He's a very interesting character in the comic books, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, I would never have picked the Riddler. And look what Matt Reeves and Paul Dano did with the Riddler. What could they possibly do in the next one? I don't know. But my guess is Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be the best one, and I just slightly behind it, I think the second best one is going to be the Batman Part 2. And yeah, Michael is calling it. I think a lot of people are thinking we could be seeing the Court of Owls. I think a lot of people are thinking we could be seeing the Court of Owls in Part 2. Who knows what Matt Reeves is going to do, but it seems to fit with his motif, if you will. All right. And now we got to talk about what's coming in third. Again, these are also razor close. I think the third best one, and again, guys, the margins separating number 1 and number 4 in this list is going to be very, very thin. I think the third best film out of this list is going to be the Superman saga, Man of Tomorrow. Not just because James Gunn just killed it with Superman. Not just because I am loving Peacemaker so far. Not just because I'm thinking Lanterns is going to be great and I'm thinking Supergirl is going to be great. But the only reason I'm going to give Man of Tomorrow the slightest of edges over Avengers Secret Wars, which I think is going to be great, is because while it is true that every single time, without fail and without exception, that Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers have worked together, the results have been nothing short of magic. Outside of Kevin Feige, listen, I love Joe and Anthony. I love these guys. They have come into my studio on multiple occasions. They've sent in videos for us to use and things multiple times. They are generous. They are wonderful. They're creative. They make wonderful films. Arguments can be made that they're the greatest comic book directors of all time, maybe. But if I'm being objective, over the past number of years, not working with Kevin Feige, they have made some films that have resulted in not such great cinema. Whether you're talking about The Electric State, whether you're talking about them as writers, directors, producers, whatever that one was with Chadwick Boseman. What was it? 21 Bridges, 31 Bridges, 99 Bridges, but a bridge ain't one. Whatever that movie was called. The one they did with Tom Holland, not so good. I'm not a big fan of what's the one they did with Chris Hemsworth again? What's the one they did with Chris Hemsworth? Was that Extraction? Was that the name of it? I think it's Extraction is what it was called. It had a couple of great action sequences. Couple of world-class action sequences. But overall, I didn't think it was a very good movie. And I love Chris Hemsworth. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that other horrible film, Gray Man. Oh, that movie was just terrible. That movie was just terrible. Now again, it wasn't the combined magic of the Russos with Kevin Feige. When that combination happens, it's world class every time without exception. But I'm going to go back to this list again. I'm going to say the best film out of this bunch is going to be Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. Just slightly behind it in the number 2 spot, I'm going to say the second best film out of this list is going to be The Batman Part 2. Just slightly behind that, I'm going to say the third best out of this bunch is going to be the Superman saga, Man of Tomorrow. And then just slightly behind that, I'm going to say Avengers Secret Wars. Now, again, I think all of them are going to be great. I have all the faith in the world in all of them. Could they all be crap? Absolutely. Could one or two of them be crap? No doubt. But I honestly think all of these films are going to be great, but that is the order in which I think they will ascend in their greatness. So that's my take on it, guys. What do you guys think? What do you think? I would love for you guys to jump in the comments section. Let me know, how would you order, how you think these things are going to shake out as far as being the biggest? And then how do you think they're going to shake out as far as the best goes? Obviously, we're not going to know until we see the movies, but you know, it's fun as film fans to speculate. So whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to the real reason we're here, shall we? Which is taking your topics, questions, and issues that we're going to address here. So let's get things started. Once again, if you guys have a topic or a question you want to fire in, use the super chat feature in the live chat. And you got to be watching live. If you're watching this a little bit later, you obviously can't send in a question. But for those of you who are watching live, let's get to it, shall we? And we're going to start off with Tacky75. And Tacky writes, I guess all the anti-woke warriors will have to delete their Fantastic Four flops hard videos now that the movie made more than $500 million. Am I right? Well, I mean, let's not pretend. Again, most filmmakers would kill to make a movie that makes $500 million. I think we lose sight of that sometimes. 99% of filmmakers will never make a film that makes $500 million. That being said, 500 million by Marvel's standards, because their standards are higher. That says something about how good Marvel has been, that their standards are higher than everybody else's. $500 million by Marvel's standards is not all that great. It's clearly not a flop. Anybody who calls a movie that makes $500 million a flop is just a bona fide moron. Okay, just a straight up idiot. But it's not all that impressive either by Marvel standards. By Marvel standards. It's not all that great. So I think it is still fair for anyone to look at the Fantastic Four's box office results and say, maybe it didn't impress. I mean, it wasn't all that bad, but it didn't impress by Marvel standards. By DC standards, fantastic. By almost anybody else's standards, fantastic. Brad Pitt's F1 just came out and made $600 million. And that is the biggest film of his career. Think about that. Brad Pitt. So if it was $500 million by Brad Pitt standards, that's great. By Leonardo DiCaprio standards, that's great. By Martin Scorsese standards, that's great. But by Marvel standards, it's not fantastic. Here's the other thing too. What is woke about Fantastic Four? I mean, by the way, anybody who uses the word woke, I just assume they're an idiot. Like, I just make that assumption. I could be wrong, but I just assume my starting assumption of anybody who uses the term woke, I just assume you're an idiot. That being said, like, if by woke they mean, I don't know, show women as something anything other than just cooking dinner in the kitchen, and showing any black character that, I don't know, is doing anything other than chauffeuring a car, then what's wrong with it? But even let's still play the game. Let's play the game. Even by those idiot standards, what was woke about Fantastic Four? Seriously, what was it? Here's the funny thing. People will often point, this happens all the time. You point to Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Some of these people will point to Deadpool and Wolverine and say, well, Deadpool and Wolverine did so well because it wasn't woke. It wasn't woke? Are you just purposefully being obtuse? Are you just honestly that dumb? There is more quote unquote woke stuff in Deadpool and Wolverine than almost anything else that Marvel has put out in ages. Like, think about that. You've got lesbian characters going on. You got the big bad guy girl who's beating the crap out of the male heroes. I mean, seriously, when you actually look down and break down element by element, Deadpool and Wolverine is far more woke than most other stuff. Deadpool himself is a pansexual. Deadpool, near the beginning of the movie, he's talking to the guys from the TVA, talking about having a gay orgy. I mean, anyway, it just goes on and on and on. But that doesn't go along with the narrative, does it? Because if it's woke, it's supposed to go broke. What happened with Barbie? Don't pay attention to Barbie. Deadpool and Wolverine has far more woke elements in it than almost anything else Marvel's put out recently. But they'll say Deadpool and Wolverine made money because it wasn't woke. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Don't believe me? Ask the guy who made it. Go ask Ryan Reynolds if he thinks his own movie is woke. He'll tell you. Anyway, so I just don't get the whole thing. I look at Fantastic Four and I don't see what it is they're looking at. But anyway, that's just kind of me. All right. Next up, we've got, where are we, by the way? I lost my place. Here we are. Okay, next up, we've got Joshua Cohen, who writes, 2035, Superman 5. Also in 2035, Shang-Chi 2. At this rate, yup. You know, it's funny. We were talking earlier today on the John Campea show about the fact that, you know, James Gunn gets it. We don't want to wait 3, 4, 5 years for sequels. If there's a movie we like, we'd like to get another one within a couple of years. Here we go. And I brought up, yeah, like what the hell? Like what's going on with Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi was one of the best films Marvel has put out. In a very hit and miss Marvel Cinematic Universe since Endgame, Shang-Chi was one of the best things they've put out. And we still have no idea when or where we're going to see Shang-Chi again. I mean, we're going to see him in Marvel Zombies, but that doesn't really count. It's animated. And so, yes, I think you're right. I think round about the time we're getting Superman 5 is probably when we're going to get Shang-Chi 2. All right. Christopher Brickner writes, the Texas Longhorns had 7.5 months of preparations and they still can't score from the Ohio State Buckeyes 1-yard line. Goodbye. Oh, yeah, I watched that Texas Ohio State game. I do want to point this out. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Buckeyes fan. I said, don't get too happy about that because you actually got beat. I mean, there were two occasions when the Longhorns were first and goal and they beat themselves. And despite the fact that Texas twice were first and goal and you only won by one score, I don't think that's a lot to be happy about. But hey, it does mean Texas got to go back to the drawing board, and we'll see what they're able to come up with. Christopher Brickner then also writes, goodbye football legend Lee Corso. Well, he's retiring. He didn't die. Game day won't be the same without your predictions and headgear, but at age 90, he deserves to enjoy his retirement. I thought it was really interesting that instead of retiring at the end of the year, he decided to make the first game of the year his final game. I thought that was actually really interesting, really cool. I haven't seen that done before. All right, Orange Hand writes, I'm replaying Knights of the Old Republic 2. It challenges a lot of Star Wars themes, yet wasn't as divisive as The Last Jedi. Is there a right versus wrong way to subvert expectations? Yes. The right way to subvert expectations is building a solidly quality movie around those subverted expectations. It's just that simple. And yet that impossibly hard. I always put forward the fact that nobody would care or talk about that they changed this and they changed that and they changed whatever. Those are usually the complaints that come out. And then people erroneously think if you didn't make those changes from the source material, if you stayed faithful to the source material, it would have been better. That's bullshit. That's nonsense. Because they never complain, and I'm including myself in this, so I'm not pointing my fingers at anybody. This is all of us. We all do this, me included, okay? Never complain when the movie's good. Want to know what movie took the most liberties and made like the most changes from its source material? X-Men Days of Future Past. X-Men Days of Future Past is almost nothing like the actual source material on which it's based. Thematically, yeah, it takes over and brings over some similarities in its themes. For sure it does. But really, when you sit down and get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it takes massive liberties with the source material. Massive liberty with the source material. But nobody talks about that. And nobody complains about it. Why? Because the movie is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. So nobody complains about it. People don't complain about the liberties taken in the Knights of the Old Republic. Well, number one, when it first came out, I mean, it really wasn't considered canon anyway. But people didn't really complain about it because the great game was awesome. So nobody cares. Nobody cares. That Civil War, guys. Captain America Civil War. Almost nothing like the iconic comic book story run of Civil War. Almost nothing like it. It has some themes that it brought over, but other than that, massively different. But you want to know why nobody cares? You want to know why nobody talks about the differences and the way they didn't stay faithful to the source material? Because the movie was great. That's why. We only complain about it when they build a bad movie around it. Now look, I'm not one of the people that hates The Last Jedi. I really hate The Rise of Skywalker, but I did not hate The Last Jedi. As a matter of fact, there's certain elements of The Last Jedi I really like. So to me, it's comme ci, comme ça. It's so-so. Comme ci, comme ça, for those of you who are French. It's a so-so movie. It's okay. But see, nobody would be complaining about the subverting source material if they built a wonderfully solid movie around it, like they did with X-Men Days of Future Past, like they did with Captain America Civil War. If you build a solid movie, that's the difference. At the end of the day, that's all the difference, is did they make a good movie or not? If you make a bad movie, everybody picks out all the flaws. You make a great movie, nobody cares about them, right? So anyway, there's that. All right. Good question, man. Next up, we got Suthius, who says, hey, Mr. C, some have speculated that the jarhead the other hardcore is seeing in the other dimension is Rick Flag Jr. of that dimension. That would be a total mind F for Chris if he sees him. I love it. I had not even thought about that. Because, yeah, you're right. In the other dimension, his brother says, oh, what is she, like seeing some jarhead now? I didn't even consider for a moment that that could be the other Rick Flag. I never thought for a second that would... Okay, if they do that, that's awesome. I love that theory. I don't know if it's actually going to work out, if that's what they're actually going to do, Suthius, but I'll tell you right now, dude, I love that theory, and now I'm kind of hoping that they do it that way. All right, thanks, Suthius. Appreciate that, man. That's a great theory. I love it. All right, Suthius also writes, curious if you have locations in mind to see up close that you've always wanted to, which you can now that you have a camper. Enjoy this new chapter. I mean, I think I want to do a lot of camping and stuff like that along the Pacific coast. I definitely want to get out to the East Coast, do more stuff out there. Anne, I've never been to Mount Rushmore. Anne desperately wants to go to Mount Rushmore. I've never really spent much time in Florida other than at Star Wars Celebration. So we're going to go and spend some time in Orlando. Yeah. So yeah, I got a lot of things I'm going to want to go and see. And, the van is definitely going to allow us to do a lot of that. Thanks for the question, man. All right. Next up, Connor Mullis writes, I'm convinced after James Gunn's comments about Margot's Harley Quinn possibly returning, saying that will be revealed down the line, that she's the really, really big Peacemaker cameo. I think that's a possibility. I do think that's a possibility. I wouldn't say that I'm absolutely convinced of it, though, because why would you go out of your way to hide a really, really, really big cameo and then yet openly acknowledge that there's a chance Margot Robbie's coming back as Harley Quinn, saying that'll be revealed down the line? I think that kind of takes away from that. So could it be? Yeah, I think Margot coming back as Harley fits into the really, really, really big cameo thing. But again, the bar for that is really high because at the end of Peacemaker season 1, the big cameo was literally the Justice League. So it's got to be big. Just Harley Quinn would be at the bottom of the range, but I'll say it is within the range. So that's a possibility. We'll see. All right. Thanks for that, Connor. Next up, Chris Martin XG writes, glad open mic is back. Just took my first trip to Chicago. I'm looking forward to my trip to Chicago. Loved it. Went to see Clay Aiken's concert. Would there be a movie meetup in Ohio? Absolutely. So starting next week, we're going to do the next 4 movie meetup stops. And we're doing them, as you guys know, we are doing them in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on the 11th, September the 11th. Then on the 12th, we're going to be in Denver, Colorado. Then on the 13th, we're going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then on the 14th, we're going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada. We've already posted about all these and, with the movie theaters and the showtimes and all that kind of stuff. About a week or two after that, we're going to do the next leg. Now, I don't have the exact dates yet or the exact locations yet, but those are going to be coming in the next day or so. But the next 3 cities we're doing after those 4 are, what are they? They are San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. So we're going to be doing those before the end of September as well. Now, sometime in October, I'm going to start heading east. And it is in that eastern swing that we will hit Ohio. Now, I haven't decided. We're not going to do both Cincinnati and Cleveland. Okay. We're probably going to do just one city in Ohio. So maybe it'll be Cincinnati. Maybe it'll be Cleveland. Maybe it'll be somewhere in between the two. So hopefully people from both cities can come if they want. But we will definitely be doing a stop in Ohio. I just don't know where exactly yet. All right. Thanks for that, Chris. Next up, we've got Robert, who writes, Beyond the Spider-Verse equals biggest. Ooh, no chance, guys. There's no chance. The last Avengers movie made over $2 billion. The last Spider-Verse movie made $690 million. There is no chance Beyond the Spider-Verse is the biggest. Anyway, Beyond the Spider-Verse equals the biggest. That saga will end epically. I agree it will end epically. Best equals Superman, Man of Tomorrow. I love that we don't have to wait 3 to 4 years. Me too. Between sequels, Gunn's got this, John. I believe. I can't wait. Hey, listen. Again, like I said, when it comes to ranking them in terms of the best, I think there is a razor-thin margin between number 1 and number 4. Because I think all 4 of the movies are going to be great. I think Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be great. I think Man of Tomorrow is going to be great. I think The Batman 2 is going to be great. I think Avengers Secret Wars is going to be great. I think they're all going to be great. So yeah, but my friend, my brother, there is no chance that Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be the biggest of them. There's just no chance. None at all. It reminds me of people telling me when the last Sonic movie came out, people insisted to me, you guys saw this, everybody kept insisting to me, the next Sonic movie is going to be $1 billion film. I'm like, guys, neither of the first 2 movies made over $500 million. There is no way Sonic 3 is going to be $1 billion. Yes, Johns, you're going to be eating so much crow, John, when Sonic 3 comes out and it makes $1 billion. Everybody insisted to me. It's like, guys, just look at the numbers. There's no chance it makes $1 billion. And of course it didn't. It didn't come remotely close. I think Beyond the Spider-Verse can take another big jump forward and maybe even flirt with the $1 billion mark. Maybe. But there's no chance it beats the final Avengers film of the saga, of the multiverse saga. No chance. No chance. I mean, I think it could be the best. I think it will be the best of the 3, but I don't think there's any chance it's going to be the biggest. All right. We'll see though, Robert. We'll see. Who knows? You might shock the world and be right. And if you are, that'll be awesome. All right. Next up, Johnny Weiner writes, the whole Peacemaker Justice League replaced with Justice Gang isn't the first time DC had retcon. They did do the same with the Superman Returns retcon, Superman 3 and 4. I have no idea what you're talking about. Superman Returns retcon? Are you talking about Brandon Routh's Superman Returns? Superman Returns is not a part of Superman 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, remember, Bryan Singer was pretty clear about this. He said he made Superman Returns in the spirit of being a sequel to the original Superman and Superman 2, like as a spiritual sequel to the Donner films. But he was also very clear that it's not actually in the same timeline as the Donner films. Okay? Like Singer was pretty clear about that. It is spiritually a successor to the Donner films. Hence, he did a lot of things that would line up with the original 2 Superman movies. But he was also very clear that it's only in a spiritual sense. It is not literally in the timeline with the Donner films. So that would not be considered a retcon because he was pretty clear that it was outside of the timeline of that. He said it was a spiritual successor to those 2, but not literally in the same timeline. And I think that's a very, very important distinction that he made. Anyway. All right. Next up, we've got Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, Gio, what's your favorite performance and best movie from Ralph Fiennes? He cooked in The Menu. Oh my God, he was so good in The Menu. Ralph Fiennes, of course, is the actor that I consider to be the single greatest actor in the world who does not currently have an Academy Award. I really thought he might have done it with The Conclave this past year, but that didn't happen. What is my favorite performance of his? What is it? Why I'm suddenly freezing on the name, the Gardener. What was his Gardener movie? Why am I freezing on the actual title of it? You guys know the one I'm talking about. Something Gardener. I'm freezing on it now. Anyway, you guys know the movie I'm talking about. Not the Gardener. I'm thinking it was either The Constant Gardener or was The English Patient. Let me tell you what. Let me go on to his IMDb here for a second. Ralph Fiennes. Now, Rafe has received a couple of Oscar nominations. He's actually been nominated for 3 Oscars. He has been nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role for The Conclave. I really thought he had a chance to win that one. He didn't. Then The English Patient. That's the one I'm going to say is his best performance, is The English Patient, actually. Now that I think about it, it's The English Patient. And then, of course, his mind-blowing performance in Schindler's List. I mean, one of the greatest villain roles ever in history. Now, the funny thing is a lot of people will talk about that he's Voldemort, and he was great as Voldemort. I mean, it's going to be difficult for, I think it's going to be easier for people to see somebody else's Dumbledore. I think it's going to be easier for people to see somebody other than Daniel Radcliffe as Harry, because, you know, he's all grown up now too. But I think it's going to be easier for people to see somebody else playing Snape than it is going to be for people to see Voldemort that isn't Ralph Fiennes. I know that sounds weird. Maybe that's a hot take, but I think that is going to be the most jarring one for most people. It's going to be really hard but I think The English Patient is probably the one. Also, his performance in Conclave was one. Grand Budapest was one. God. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, he's got a brother, Joseph Fiennes. Some of you might remember him from Shakespeare in Love and the Al Pacino Merchant of Venice. He was so good in Al Pacino's Merchants of Venice. And they might be the best brother acting duo in the business. You know what? That might be an interesting conversation on the John Campea show sometime. Who are the most talented brother actors in the business? I'm telling you, it's probably the Fiennes. Because Joseph Fiennes, unfortunately, he kind of lives in his brother's shadow. But Joseph Fiennes, by the way, who was amazing in The Handmaid's Tale. Oh my God, he's so good in The Handmaid's Tale. But Joseph Fiennes is a hell of an actor. And Rafe, again, I think the greatest actor on the face of the planet who doesn't have an Academy Award right now. So they might be the best brother tandem in acting. All right, let's keep going here. Next up, William writes, how about Alan Ritchson as Captain Atom? Yeah, that would work, sure. Maybe the government realizes they need their own metahuman and start experimenting with soldiers. Sure, but that doesn't necessarily require Alan Ritchson. Again, I think Alan Ritchson's a pretty decent actor. He's got a great physique. He's got the physique. Let's be honest. He's got the physique. That's why I kind of would see him as Batman. Maybe something else along those lines. But if it's not Batman, I think there's a dozen, maybe 24 characters you could slide him in. Captain Atom could absolutely be one of those. All right. Next up, we got Keaton Haybeck, who writes, does James Gunn need to build to something like the Infinity Saga did, or could the DCU work just catching up with the main characters, or both? I'm glad you asked that, because it goes back to what I was talking about. You know, we were talking a few minutes about the fact that, you know, a lot of people complain that it didn't stick to the source material only when the movie's not bad, or only when the movie isn't good. When the movies are great, doesn't matter if it totally pissed all over canon or pissed all over the source material. It doesn't matter if the movie's good. Like Civil War, like Days of Future Past, right? The same is true, I think, because Rob and I have had this debate, and we continue to have this debate. You know, Rob sees one of the big problems with the Marvel Cinematic Universe post-Endgame is that they're really not all connected. And I agree with that. The movies have not been nearly as well connected as a cohesive cinematic universe as they were in phases 1, 2, and 3. I agree with Rob in that. But where Rob and I kind of disagree is that that has anything to do with why the MCU isn't as good right now as it was in phases 1, 2, and 3. Because whether or not you really connect your stuff in well with the overall universe, that speaks nothing to the quality of your movie. The MCU has suffered not because it hasn't properly built its cinematic universe like they did in phases 1, 2, and 3. It hasn't been as good because they simply haven't made as good movies. It's just that simple, guys. There's no formula. There's no magic elixir. Because guess what? Secret Invasion would have been just as crappy if at some point Doctor Strange showed up and started talking about multiverse to really tie it in, and then Shang-Chi showed up and it still would have been just as big of a bag of shit. It was bad because it was bad. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was bad because it was bad. It was bad filmmaking. It wasn't a great story, blah, 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 blah. You had thrown in a few things to tie it in more to the cinematic universe. It wouldn't have made it any better. Wouldn't have made it any better. Listen, Shang-Chi, other than, having Wong show up quick, it really wasn't a part of the overall story of where the MCU is at in phases 4, 5, or 6, whatever. But it's one of the best films that they've done since Endgame. Simply one of the best films they've done since Endgame. And so the answer to your question is, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if James Gunn uses everything to build up to something or if James Gunn doesn't. All that matters is when you put out a movie and you and I go to the theater, was it a good movie? That's all that matters. Because when we went to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, they didn't give us a good movie. When we went to go see Captain America: Brave New World, they didn't give us a good movie. When we went to see Guardians of the Galaxy, which, by the way, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 hardly tied into anything with the overall story of what was going on in the MCU. But you know what? It was great because they made a great movie. So I would honestly kind of suggest that it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, all that matters is were your movies good. Now, if we can have our cake and eat it too, I would prefer a world where all the movies are good and they're all building up to something. But as long as you just deliver me good movies, entertaining, fun movies, experiential events, then I'll be happy, man. I'll be happy. All right, good question, Keaton. All right, next up. Tim writes, Endgame made $630 million in China. Deadpool and Wolverine, $60 million in China. The Marvels made more than Fantastic Four, 11 versus 5. China has given up on comic book movies. Can Doomsday even hit 100 million in China? The reality is most comic book movies that have hit $1 billion in China never had that much money made in China anyway. There are a couple of exceptions. Actually, about a year ago, I did a full editorial on the role of China when it comes to Hollywood films' box office results. I did a whole editorial on it last year. And when we actually went through the numbers, and I brought up all the data, I brought up all the numbers of all the movies, the reality is, except in a couple of circumstances and in a couple of situations, China's contribution to a couple of these billion-dollar film box office things really wasn't that much. It really wasn't that much. It helps, sure. But the reality is, most of the films, and again, I encourage you to go back and check out that China editorial I did about a year, maybe it might be 2 years old now. I'm not completely sure, but I just remember in one part of the editorial, we go through these movies and we see that it's actually China's never played that big of a role in the overall box office results of many Hollywood films. There are a couple of big, obvious exceptions to that, like the Avengers one you brought up, but for the most part, it's really not that big. Tim is right. Where can we read that editorial? It's a video editorial on my YouTube channel. So just search my channel for China and you should be able to find it, I think. All right. Thanks for that, Tim. Next up, we've got Murray Reich, who writes, just got back from watching Jaws 50th anniversary in 4DX. That would be interesting at Regal. Also watched back in June F1 in 4DX, and it was the best experience since Twisters. You know what? Twisters still remains the only film I've ever seen in 4DX. It's the only movie I've ever seen in 4DX. And it was a great, but I remember watching Twisters in it and having a blast in 4DX. But I remember thinking, even though I was having a great time, I remember thinking to myself, there's only certain movies I would want to watch in 4DX though. F1 is one of them. And I never got around to doing it yet. I probably never will get the chance again, which is too bad, but that was one I wanted to see in 4DX as well. I'm kind of a little bit jealous that you got the chance to do that, man. All right, guys, listen, before we continue, I am just to let you know, we've already gone about as long as I planned on going tonight. So, but we still have a bunch of questions to get to, and we're going to get to those now. But before we get to them, I'm going to let you guys know I am turning off the super chats. Okay. So just so you know, if you tried now to send in a question at this point, and you're not able to, it's because I've turned the super chats off because, you know, I don't want to be here all night. Okay. Let's see. Where did we leave off here? We left off, I believe, with Murray Reich. Yes, we did. All right. Next up, we've got ARTVAN delay. That's an interesting username, man. All right, writes, hey, John, greetings from Vandelay Industries. Vandelay Industries! So a Seinfeld reference. I think this 2027 lineup shows how great also having Elseworld tales outside of each cinematic universe is. I agree. I don't even call them Elseworld tales. I just call them, you know what they used to call a comic book movie that wasn't part of a shared cinematic universe? Let me repeat the question. Do you know what they used to call a comic book movie like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man that was not connected to a shared cinematic universe? They used to call those comic book movies comic book movies. Wild, isn't it? Listen, I always say this, don't get me wrong. I love shared cinematic universe. I really do. But I'm sick of everything having to be shared cinematic universe. Like I'm like Garfield. I love lasagna, but ask me if I want to eat lasagna every freaking meal. No, I don't. I like a lot of lasagna, but I don't want it every freaking meal. It used to be, and for, you know, I have lamented about this ever since back in the movie blog days. So some of you have heard me talk about this a lot, but I kind of miss the idea of a superhero movie being about a hero that is truly unique in their world. Like Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, part of the thing that made Batman so interesting was he was alone in the universe. There wasn't 55 other superheroes running around the streets of Gotham or Bloodhaven or wherever else, or Metropolis. No. Batman in that world of Christopher Nolan's was unique. When Sam Raimi made his Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man wasn't just one of 500 superheroes flying and floating and swinging and running around on the streets fighting crime. Spider-Man was unique in his world. There was only him. Same with, Christopher Reeve's Superman. I'm not saying we should only have those movies, not at all. But I love having cinematic universe movies and then comic book films that are not part of a cinematic universe. That's why when everybody was complaining, when they first announced Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie, Everybody cried, you can't have a Joker movie without Batman. It's never going to work. No one's going to go see it. This is going to suck. And I was one of the only people, I still remember I was at Comic-Con when they made the announcement. I was one of the only people that was celebrating, saying, yes, finally a movie, a comic book based movie that isn't part of a shared cinematic universe, whose characters are going to be different and unique in their worlds. I'm not even saying we shouldn't have a majority of shared cinematic universe films. I even think shared cinematic universe should be the majority of them. But I love that we're starting to finally get into a groove where we can start having some comic book movies again that are not part of a shared cinematic universe. A healthy diet is variety, my friends, and I want to see variety. Anyway, next up, we've got Bry Guy who writes, you've seen the Clayface set photo leaks, supposed set photo leaks. There's a newspaper on set with a column about Bliss, the party drug in the Penguin. Thoughts? Well, Bliss wasn't originated in the Penguin show, just to be clear. That could be something like a little Easter. Here's the thing. Whenever there's a comic book movie coming out, as sure as the sun rises, people find little details and they start to construct entire movie worldviews around it. And 9 times out of 10, it usually doesn't mean anything. I always use this one as an example. I remember when they were shooting Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, there was a picture, a set picture that leaked out of Scoot McNairy. Is that the actor's name? I think it's Scoot McNairy, who played the guy who ended up in the wheelchair that was all mad at Superman and everything. There was a picture that leaked from the set of that with him having green leggings on. So clearly they were going to green screen it out. And even though it ended up having nothing to do with it, the entire internet, that's right, Derek got it. The entire internet blew up 100% convinced Scoot McNairy's the Flash. It's the only explanation. His little legs going and running across the streets and speed of light. He's Flash, everybody. It's official. He's Flash. Of course, it ended up having nothing to do with it. Still had nothing to do with it. In this set photo, you see this on a table. That means it ended up meaning nothing. In this set photo, there's a newscast in the background showing this. That means no. It meant nothing. On a set photo, there's a newspaper, and in an article, it means nothing. Now, look, it's not that it always means nothing, but 9 times out of 10, these little things end up meaning nothing. I would go out on a limb to say there's probably a 90% chance that it's just like an Easter egg. It's a quick little, homage Easter egg or something along those lines. Now, it could end up meaning something. I'm just saying when you look at all the time stuff like this has happened, and more than 9 times out of 10, it usually amounts to nothing. I'm going to guess it probably means nothing. Nothing other than maybe a fun little Easter egg. But again, that doesn't 100%, it doesn't 100% mean that it won't, but I just think it's very likely that it won't mean anything. But we'll find out. We'll find out for sure, Bry Guy. All right, next up, Mr. Max writes, when would you start doomsday marketing / trailers? Me? If it's me, I start doomsday marketing around June. I honestly think anything more than 6 months out is a complete waste of time and money because excitement, energy, and buzz dies, right? It dies. It has a shelf life. Eventually it dies and then you get nothing out of it. So I really don't think they should mount it too early. I think most films shouldn't start marketing more than 5 months out But for Doomsday, I would maybe push that to 6-7 months. So if it was me, I'd probably start really marketing the film just before Comic-Con. I would probably start marketing around June, do a couple little things in June, drop a poster, drop something like that. And then come Comic-Con, boom, first trailer, away we go. At least that's what I would do. That doesn't mean it's what they're going to do though. All right, next up. Cardo, the bassist, writes, heard you mention a few times that you love the latest Linkin Park album. I really do. What's your favorite track? For me, it's a toss-up between Emptiness Machine and Causality, but the album overall absolutely rules. I was just watching one. What's the name of the track again, where they do the whole video in the suits? Two-Face? Is that what it's called? That's a great track, if I'm remembering the title of it right. But 100% it's the Emptiness Machine. The Emptiness Machine might be my all-time favorite Linkin Park song. I know that's almost sacrilegious to say. But it's either that or Numb. But Emptiness Machine is a damn awesome song, man. The music, the lyrics, the way it's performed, the tone of it. I mean, at least let's at least say this. It's right up there with Numb as my all-time favorite Linkin Park song. I just think it's pretty awesome. And listen. This Saturday night, Linkin Park is going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. And I am thinking about driving to Phoenix, Arizona. I was just there for a movie meetup. I am thinking about driving 5.5 hours to Phoenix, Arizona, just so I can go see it. John, aren't they going to play in LA? Yeah, but they're playing in LA when I'm going to be on the movie meetup tour. I think they're playing in LA the night that I'm in Denver. So I can't go to that one, but I'm thinking about this Saturday night, maybe driving out to Phoenix to go see Linkin Park. The problem is I can't find anybody to go with me right now. Anne Anne's going to a Jonas Brothers concert on Saturday night. I thought she was going to a Jonas Brothers concert on Thursday. She is. She's going to a Jonas Brothers concert on Thursday in San Diego. And then she's going to the Jonas Brothers concert again on Saturday at Intuit Dome in Los Angeles. So I don't have anybody to go with me to go see Linkin Park. So I don't know. We'll have to see if I can find somebody to go with me. I'll go up to Phoenix to go see Linkin Park. All right. Next up. Christopher Brickner writes, do you consider Mission Impossible Final Reckoning a flop? No, absolutely not. It made almost $600 million, but its budget was reportedly about $400 million. That wasn't its budget. That around $400 million is where it maybe came in when you combine production budget with marketing budget, in which case $600 million is around where it needs to make to break even. Would I call it a blockbuster hit? Absolutely not. Would I call it a flop? I would also not call it a flop. So I wouldn't. There's just something inherently wrong calling any film that makes $600 million at the box office a flop. You know what I mean? But no, I honestly don't think it was. So I'm going to say no, I wouldn't consider it a flop. All right. Leon, the movie fan, writes, hey, John, big fan of yours from Poland. Thank you so much, man, for writing it from Poland. Good to have you, dude. I have a theory that Lex in the Man of Tomorrow movie will use the Hammer of Boravia suit as his armor. Well, I don't think so, but because remember, that suit of armor had no power. It was the fact that the clone of Superman was in it that gave it power. Right? Ultraman was the power. It wasn't the suit of armor. That suit of armor was literally just a costume. It was just a costume. So I don't think it's going to end up being the Hammer of Boravia, or however you pronounce it. I don't think it's going to end up being that. I believe he's going to build something new. He's going to build something from scratch. He's going to be designing stuff while he's in prison. At some point, he's going to get out of prison. Then he's going to build it. So yeah, again, you never know. They might do that. But again, to me, it was that suit of armor literally didn't do anything. It was the fact that it was Ultraman in it that actually had all the power. All right. But good theory, man. Let's see if it turns out. All right, next up, Daddy Logan writes, any Dexter finale predictions? Man, I have been loving Dexter Resurrection. I didn't think I would, but I have been absolutely loving this show, man. And the end of the last episode, oh my God. I did not think they'd go there. Holy shit, they killed blah, blah, blah. Couldn't believe it. Absolutely couldn't believe it, man. And this show, I can't believe there's only one episode left. I cannot believe there's only one episode left of this show. I have a hard time imagining how they're going to wrap it all up. And did Cam from Modern Family really just get away? Is it going to end like that? Does he just get away scot-free? Maybe. I kind of hope he gets away because I'd like to see him in another season, to be honest with you. But as far as predictions go, my only prediction is, I forget the name of the guy who's Dexter's landlord, his Uber driving buddy friend who lives upstairs, that he is the big New York serial killer. Because, he has the dark past with being a child soldier. He clearly has some issues. I'm going to guess that he's the one who ends up being the big New York City killer. But that's all I got. That's the only, and maybe not at all. I don't know. Maybe it won't be him at all, but that's kind of my guess, but we'll see where it goes. I love this whole season, man. I love it so much. All right. Alex M writes, any plans for Dallas, Texas movie meetup? I will be coming to Texas 100%. I'm not 100% sure where in Texas yet, because there's 3 primary cities, and I'm definitely not going to do all 3. But there's 3 primary cities that are on my radar: Dallas, Austin, and Houston. So, I can't remember. And like, as far as distances, I have no idea about the distance. Like, how far is it between Austin and Dallas, or between Austin and Houston, or between Houston and Dallas? I have no idea what the distance is. I mean, it would be awesome if there was somewhere that was only 40 minutes from Austin and only 30 minutes from Dallas, and I could do a movie meetup there so people from Dallas and Austin can both go to it. Somebody in live chat saying Dallas to Austin is 3 hours. Well, that's too far. So I'm going to have to pick one, maybe 2. Maybe Dallas will be one of those. But I'll pick 1 or 2 out of Houston, Austin, or Dallas. So, but I will definitely be in Texas. 100% coming to Texas. I'm just not 100% sure which cities I'll be in Texas at. But Dallas, there's a good chance Dallas will be one of them. All right, next up. John DX Dragon writes, hey, John, love your enthusiasm. Thank you so much. Is it possible we may see the new Batman or Wonder Woman in 2030, the latest, or sooner than that? I hope Millie Alcock plays a bigger role for this new sequel as well. Well, I think we're going to get both Batman and Wonder Woman much, much, much earlier than that. I mean, obviously they are fast tracking Wonder Woman right now. Batman Brave and the Bold has been something they've been working on exhaustively for well over a year now. We're definitely going to get those long before 2030. So that's not a problem. I don't really care how big of a role, if any role at all, she plays in Man of Tomorrow. We're getting her own movie, which I'm excited about, but I don't need her to be in the next Superman movie. If she is, great. By the way, X-Men superfan Emma Frost sent in 5 gift memberships. Thank you so much for that, X-Men superfan. That's incredibly generous of you, dude. Thank you so much for that. Anyway, what was the question again? Oh yeah. So I don't really care. I mean, she is a part of it. Great. If not, James Gunn clearly has plans for her, right? So we're going to get her own standalone movie. Then maybe she'll be in something else besides that. But whether she is or isn't, I don't know. But 100% guarantee we're going to have Wonder Woman and we're going to have Batman before 2030. Of that, I have very, very little doubt. All right. Thanks for that, John. Next up, Daddy Logan writes, when coming to Orlando, I suggest the Regal Point, huge IMAX screen and great plaza, or the AMC in downtown Disney. Look forward to it, to if and when you do. Oh yeah, we're definitely 100%. We will be in the Orlando area. There is 100% chance of that. And it's probably going to be sometime in October, at the very latest in November. But we'll be out there, and when we start looking for places to go, we'll put out people's suggestions for which theater to go to. So thanks for that, Daddy Logan. Appreciate it, man. Right, Alex M writes, will you still cover Brand New Day when it comes out, or will you be retired by then? I'm not really sure. I won't be retired by the time Brand New Day comes out. Now, remember, for years, my plan was to retire sometime between the release of Superman and the end of 2025. But now that I have the van, and now that we have our new sponsorship deal, I have extended that. So at the very earliest that I'll be retiring now is early 2027. That's now the earliest. I'll definitely still be doing this through 2026. So I will still be doing this by the time Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out. All right. Next, yeah, till you're 90. No, not till I'm 90. I fully intend to retire early, to retire while I'm young enough to go out and do all the things I want to do. But I still got time. But no, not till I'm 90. All right. Let's see. Next up, Christopher Brickner writes, I'd like Lucasfilm to be better at remaking or remastering old Star Wars games. I'd like to play the Rogue Squadron series, Dark Force series, X-Wing TIE Fighter series on modern consoles and hardware. I'm with you, man. But listen, I would honestly just settle for a really good port of X-Men versus of X-Wing TIE Fighter. X-Wing, TIE Fighter, or X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. Either of those combinations. I cannot tell you how many hours of my life I have spent playing X-Wing, playing TIE Fighter, and playing X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. It's been a lot. So I would even just take just a good port of it. I don't even need a fully digitally remastered, remade version of it, although I would take that too, because those are some of my all-time favorite games, man. 100% all-time favorite games. All right. Maybe just a good emulator of it. I don't know. All right. John XD Dragon sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, John, for supporting us on that level, man. Appreciate that, dude, very much. And he writes, I personally love that James Gunn didn't take 5 years to announce his next film. He means business. I hope it's not rushed and lives up to the hype of the first one. Also, thoughts on Brandon Skellner playing Batman if he gets it? I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know who Brandon is, so I can't address that. But, and besides this X actor and X role, I love for so many reasons that we've got the announcement that we're not going to have to wait 3 or 4 years for the next Superman movie. We've got it coming in 2 years, less than 2 years. Again, though, my one hesitation, my one apprehension is that I really would like James Gunn to do his job, which isn't to be a director. And he's great. I love James Gunn as a director. You guys who follow me for a long time, you know I'm a huge James Gunn fan. But he's supposed to be running a full company. Something that should be a 7-day-a-week job. Directing a movie is a 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week job. You can't do 2 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week jobs at the same time. You just can't. But John, he's got Peter with him. Yeah, but Peter is not the creative head of DC. He's looking after more of the business stuff. I really need James to be running the studio. and then facilitating and shepherding and working with other filmmakers as they make his films. But you know what? I will worry about that later. Today, I am just going to celebrate that we're getting Man of Tomorrow and that we're getting our next James Gunn film. I will worry all about, and I'll stress out about the fact that he's not focusing on his real full-time job, which is to run this whole cinematic universe. Just today, I'm just going to celebrate that we're getting another James Gunn Superman movie. So I choose to just focus on that right now. All right. Thanks a lot for that, John. And thank you so much for supporting us on that level, dude. Very generous of you, man. All right. Next up, Christopher Brickner writes, Matt Smith was rumored to be playing a young Palpatine in episode 9. By the way, I don't think that was ever true. I mean, he was going to be in the movie, but I don't think it was ever true that he was going to be a young Palpatine. If in Starfighter they reveal Matt Smith is the last young clone of Palpatine, I'm walking out. Oh, well, okay. It's Sean Levy. It's a great writer. It's a great director. I trust him. Now, if I find out that Matt Smith is playing the last remaining clone of Sheev Palpatine, I'm going to be very disgruntled and I'm going to be very dismayed. However, I'm not just going to walk out. There have been several movies that have done things that I think in theory were dumb ideas, but guess what? They ended up making them work and they were great. Do I think they should have Matt Smith be a young clone of Sheev Palpatine? Absolutely not. But if the movie's cooking and it's working, and we happen to find out Matt Smith is a Sheev Palpatine clone, I'm not going to get up and walk out. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to say, okay, Sean Levy, show me where you're going with this. But I think it would be a tremendous mistake. I do think in advance it would be a tremendous mistake. But again, I don't believe that at all. I don't think that's something we have to worry about. All right, next up. Dwayne Fernandez writes, hey, John, are you still planning for the Project Hail Mary? Let me try this again. Are you still planning for the Project Hail Mary, how the movie will adapt the book Stream? Would that be this year or next year? I'm excited. I'm not quite sure let me read this again. Maybe I'm misreading it. Are you still planning for the Project Hail Mary, how the movie will adapt the book Stream? Would that be this year? I'm excited. Are you talking about like us doing a live stream where we just talk all about Project Hail Mary and speculate how they're going to do the adaptation from the book to the movie? If that's what you mean by that, then yes. Yeah. I mean, we're going to wait a little bit, but yes, we will do that. And it will be exclusively for people who have read the book. And then, yeah, that's what we'll do. So yes, 100% still planning on it. By the way, I'm all excited because Ann and I are about to do the 4-city swing of Albuquerque, Denver, Salt Lake City, and Las Vegas. Ann's coming with me. So we're going to have a lot of time in the van. And Ann has not heard Project Hail Mary yet. So I'm going to do a second listen to the audiobook, and Ann's going to have her first one. And I'm going to be really excited for her to hear it. All right. And oh, guys, that'll do it. That's it. You guys remember about a half hour ago, I said I turned off super chats. So guys, that will do it for tonight's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and making our little show part of your day. By the way, Dark Knight, I am also Running Man. Take it to the bank. I know everybody's skeptical about it. Can't be good as the original. I guarantee you this is going to be better than the original. It's also going to be very, very different because it's not really a remake. It's based on the book. Running Man is going to be awesome. They showed us a killer presentation for it at CinemaCon. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for it. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for our show for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for coming by and joining us as we hang out, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions because you gave us everything that we talked about tonight. So thank you for that. But also you supported this channel as you did it. And everybody involved with the channel, thanks you so much for your support. So don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow, guys. We got some Actually, more Superman news just came out this afternoon that we're going to talk about. We got a few other things we're going to discuss. We look forward to seeing you then. That'll do it for me, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.